I grew up in a middle-class family, seemingly normal in many respects, but characterized by a strong criticism of religion, an idea that they also passed on to me. My childhood was spent in an environment where religious beliefs were viewed with skepticism and reservation, and this attitude deeply influenced my perception of the world and spiritual matters. I spent my formative years believing that death was an eternal sleep without dreams. During my youth, I was subjected to abuse by a family friend. This traumatic event triggered deep suffering in me, to the extent that I required specialized psychiatric care for children. My mind was engulfed in constant depression, and the idea of ending it all haunted me relentlessly. Despite the loving attention and best efforts of doctors and nurses, I couldn't overcome the pain and trauma that plagued me. At the age of 17, I cut a main artery in my arm. Blood spurted to the ceiling in rhythm with my heartbeat. I felt fortunate that I would finally be able to sleep for eternity, free from pain and burdensome to anyone in the world. I sank into a dark abyss. Suddenly, I saw a scene from above, in a corner of the ceiling. I saw a room full of blood with a girl lying on the bed. As the nurse entered the room, she began to scream. I couldn't understand the panic. Everything was fine and I felt peaceful. The doctor came in and the girl was placed on a stretcher. They hurriedly pushed it through the hospital halls. I floated above the stretcher like a balloon. The doctor paused in the hospital's large hall, contemplating whether to proceed to the operating room immediately. A warm golden light shone high in the hall. Slowly but surely I was being drawn toward the light. The doctor gently slapped my face and called my name. It was then that I realized the girl on the stretcher was me. I was thrilled, thinking to myself, I'm dead. This is death. I couldn't bear the thought that people on earth didn't understand death and continued to live without a body. I wanted to tell everyone on earth that death isn't the end, that there's more, but I kept moving further from earth and toward the light. I looked back at earth and felt compassion for all people. I felt sorry for them because they didn't know. They didn't know they were ignorant as they suffered and argued on earth. Suddenly, I felt emptiness and anxiety. I wondered where I was going once I was finally in the light. I started to panic and zoomed in on the doctor's ear. I shouted from the depths of my soul, "Help me, I don't want to die. Please help me." That moment of doubt near the doctor felt like an eternity. I wanted him to save my life. I knew that once I was in the light, I would never be able to return to my body. I didn't want that because my work on earth wasn't finished, even though I didn't know what my work was or how I would complete it. Something very big was with me, understood me, and brought me back. Through this experience, I became convinced that there is life after death. Unfortunately, I had not fully processed my trauma. After receiving psychiatric care since childhood, I continued my healing journey with the support of specialists into adulthood. During this phase, I faced a series of challenges, including anorexia, substance abuse, and deep inner turmoil. In that dark period of my life, psychologists advised me to seek comfort in the companionship of a pet. So, I decided to welcome a little cat into my life. This feline proved to be an endless source of joy and comfort. I spent hours cuddling him, and with his affectionate presence, he made me feel less alone. Every time he looked at me with those tender eyes, he made me understand that I was important to someone, that there was someone who loved me unconditionally. Despite the support received, the weight of my past experiences continued to haunt me. My existence was shaken again when my faithful feline companion, after only 3 years of life, became seriously ill with an incurable disease. helplessly witnessing his suffering and death in my arms was a trauma so deep that it completely shook me. The pain of losing my precious cat intertwined with my other challenges, creating a whirlwind of emotions and sensations that seemed to engulf me. This news triggered a new wave of terror and insecurity in me. I found myself struggling with the fear of not being able to continue living my life without him. The sense of inner emptiness, the anguish of inadequacy, became more intense than ever, leading me to believe once again that the world would be better off without me. Immersed in the darkness of my despair, I decided to resort to an overdose of illicit substances, hoping to end my pain once and for all. When I found myself in the emergency room, surrounded by the frantic commotion of paramedics desperately trying to revive me, it was like reliving déjà vu. I returned to the place where years before I had hit rock bottom, and the memory struck me with overwhelming force. But this time, something was different. As soon as I set foot in that place, a sensation of warmth enveloped me, a warmth that came not only from the surrounding environment, but also from the emotions coursing through me. While I was there in that emergency scenario, my eyes met a surprising sight. Not only was I surrounded by doctors and medical equipment, but I also saw a multitude of animals. Dogs and cats played happily together, wagging their tails with joy alongside their owners. It was at that moment that I saw him, my faithful cat, who had left me with a broken heart just moments before. His presence filled me with overwhelming joy. We hugged tightly. I cuddled him as tears streamed freely down my cheeks. It was as if my beloved feline companion was comforting me, telling me with his loving gaze that I had to continue my life. He whispered words of comfort, murmuring that I should always look up because he would always be with me, with small signs and gestures that I could perceive in everyday life. He asked me to go back because that was not my place, but he would stay by my side, guiding me along the way. And in that moment, I felt overwhelmed by a sense of peace and acceptance, knowing that my faithful companion would accompany me wherever I went. This experience convinced me that the soul, after this life, goes to a place I have earned with the things I have done during my life. I suddenly realized that this is my life and that only I am responsible for how I handle the situations that come my way. I haven't always chosen what has happened to me, but I choose how to deal with the situations. I immediately stopped all medication, illicit substances, tobacco, self-harm, and the world of psychiatry. I started studying and working in the healthcare sector. I have been happily married for 16 years to a man, and together we have had 3 more children. In concluding this story, I can say that I have reached my goal. I am fortunate and try to share this fortune with others. I can feel and spread unconditional love because ultimately, all we take with us when we pass is what we have given. Recently, I introduced a new section dedicated to subscribers on my channel. If you are truly satisfied with my work, I invite you to explore the subscriber section, where you will find exclusive videos, insights, and unpublished content that you can watch at your convenience. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for your continued support.